I'm JB. This is the Back It Up Binge podcast, and I'm joined by NFL great Mark Duper. Mark, welcome to the program.
Hi, how you doing? How's everything in New York? You are in New York, right?
I'm in New Jersey. I'm right outside of New
New
York.
Jersey, okay, close
Yeah.
enough.
So you many times play at the old Giants Stadium against the Jets. So, and actually met you a couple times, Mark. I met you one time at the Sheridan. I think it was the Sheridan right across the street where you guys stayed. You guys were playing the
Right.
Jets around Christmas time, and for some reason, we both gravitated towards this table that had this huge gingerbread house out, and we started talking about it. So, welcome to the binge. Normally I start out with the beginning of a person's journey, but I want to start at the end because we had exchanged some text messages, and you had a harvester that broke for whatever you're doing right now in your post NFL career. Can you talk a little bit about what you're doing with that? Because it sounds pretty interesting.
Uh, you talking about my honey business?
Yes.
Yes. What I did, I had a friend of mine from Jacksonville, Florida, Jimmy, and he's an older gentleman, and he'd been doing honey for like 40, 50 years, and I've been knowing him for 15 years, and I've been helping him. So one day I came to the ranch, and I had this big honeycomb just sitting there, and I said, you know what? I'm gonna get me a bee box,
Hmm.
and I'm gonna catch those bees, and I'm gonna see if I can do honey. So everybody thought that, well, really, you're doing this, but you don't know anything about honey. But people didn't realize that I had a background of 15 years helping Jimmy doing his honey, and I just decided to do my own honey in Louisiana, and I caught one swarm. It went in, did great, caught another one, got two boxes for that year, and got over 3 to 4 gallons of honey.
Wow.
So this year, right now, I got 12 boxes. And matter of fact, if you see what I just did, hold on, I
Oh yeah,
got
look
these
at look at
16
that.
ounces thing, and what we I'm doing 16 ounces, and it's like what we doing. We got this label that we putting on it.
Okay.
Something nice and simple, just because an NFL player is doing it. I'm actually doing it myself.
Can you lift that up a little bit?
And
Because I got it half screen. I want to see what you're naming it.
okay, you got it.
Go up a little higher. There you go. Supertime. There. Oh, that's great. Look at that.
Yeah, yeah.
That
So
is
that's
great. Look at that.
yeah. So I'm playing around with that, and and it's fun. I get to hang out in Louisiana where I was born and raised and I have a ranch down here, so which means that give me 6 months out of the year down here and then 6 months in Florida. Something fun, when you're retired, you got to find something that you like to do to keep you busy. And I think between Florida and Louisiana, it keeps me very busy.
Well, did you ever see the weird connection there? You played with a team that had a defense called the Killer Bees, and now you're working with bees. Where did that come from?
you know, well, you know what? Like they say, a beekeeper is very special. So the killer bees was defense, and I used to burn up their defense, so which means it's
You
really good. I love it.
amongst
I
many
wish I could have
defenses.
played against our killer bees.
There you go. So then
Yes.
now that's the bookend on the back end. Let's go to the front end of your journey. You went to a high school that did not have a football team. You big track star. You go to Northwestern State. You wind up playing football. I think it was your junior year. You wind up trying to be a running back and then eventually a great wide receiver your senior year. You averaged close to 25 yards a catch. How do you go from the journey of not having a football team in high school to playing in college?
Dreams,
Okay.
perseverance. I mean, like most people say, nothing happened to a dream but a dreamer. I mean, nothing happens in a dream but a whatever, however they say that. But I, you know, goals, things that you want to do in life. And I was the type of person that when I was a kid, they had this guy that used to build houses. He built a section on our house for my mom and dad. And when I was a kid, I used to help him. And I started building birdhouses. He would cut my wood out and build birdhouse. I also was the type of person that when I see something I like, I go at it and do it and try to perfect it to make it a better for me. And football was like that. I also like to watch football. Matter of fact, O.J. Simpson was one of my favorite player to watch back in the day. And basketball was Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Okay.
And I made a decision that I wanted to play football. And we used to play football in the streets and everything else, but we never had an organized football team. And so when I got a career in track, I got the scholarship. After track, during the football season, I used to do my workout and then go watch them play football. And I decided Joe Delaney and a couple of guys to say, man, you should come out here and see what it's like. And they say, oh, you can't do it because, you're not a football player. You never did this. And when people tell me what you can't do, is what I try to do if it's to the best benefit of me.
There you go. There you go. You actually had somebody there that helped you that I read in this. I still have this Sports Illustrated
Yes.
issue that helped you down there because he lived near your college. And I read in this magazine article that he wanted his team to draft you. And if they did that, the trajectory of everything we know about Mark Duper and the '84 Dolphins would have been different. Can you name that player?
Oh yeah, Joe Ferguson. We'd have been playing against them killer bees, and you know what? That'd have been a great that'd have been great for me. You know, Joe Ferguson used to the coach, the Northwestern, was friend with Joe Ferguson, and Joe Ferguson used to work out over there, and he used to try to get people to throw the football to. So no receivers, nobody. When it's hot, it's very hot during the summertime, and he likes to work out at right after 12 o'clock in the heat. And so I stayed down the whole summer, and I stayed in the locker room underneath the stadium. Coach Dies, my track coach, let me stay there, and because I didn't have any money to house myself. And so, I kept up the locker room, kept everything clean, did all that stuff, all the good stuff that you're supposed to do. And every day, except Saturday and Sunday, Joe Ferguson and I, for a whole summer, threw footballs and caught footballs and ran routes every single day
That's
throughout
amazing.
the whole summer. And it got to a point there where Joe Ferguson was throwing everything, and I was catching everything, and I was saying, "Well, Joe, you need to throw some bad passes, so that way to see if I can catch bad passes." It was so. I mean, it was a big inspiration. People don't realize that I had a professional quarterback that was playing in the NFL was training me, and nobody knew about it.
Yeah.
And when I went to the combine, it was a totally different situation. Coach Shula took interest in me because nobody in the combine wanted to run. Nobody wanted to catch the ball. Nobody wanted to do anything. I did everything more than one time. I ran a 40. I think I ran it about 4 times because they're saying, well, my time was so fast, and they thought something was wrong with it. And Coach Shula asked me to run it again. I ran it again. Catch the ball over his shoulder. I caught the ball over my shoulder. He said, no. I used to turn around. I was going so fast. I used to turn around and catch the ball. He said, no, I want you to see it over your shoulder. Can you catch it over your shoulder? So the guy threw the ball and he underthrew me. So I leaned way back and I caught the ball over my shoulder and Shula was very impressed with that. Coach Shula was very impressed with that. And I think that was one of the reasons why he drafted me, because I was shocked I got drafted in the second round. I knew Buffalo was going to try to pick me up the third or fourth or fifth round. But it was a situation that Coach Shula must have knew something, and drafted me in the second round, never played football. That was a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I that was going to be my next question about getting drafted. You were second round in '82. Roy Foster was ahead of you in first round. Then Langford, Bowser, Dan Johnson. That was a pretty good draft class. And the thing I read about Shula was that he liked about you. He said most track stars don't catch with their hands; they catch with their body. And you were a hand catcher, which is a great story. But you get in and drafted in '82, but you only get in 2 games. You don't play a lot. You come to a team that has Cephalo, Duriel Harris, Nat Moore. Was there any point in time in that year, in that season, that you weren't playing, that you said, you know what, I really want to get out there. I should be playing?
Well, first of all, you just didn't know that second round draft choice, I had a cushion that, okay, they're going to give me another year uh, to do this. And it was so confidence that when Coach Shula came to me the first year and say, we're not worrying about you playing football. We want you to learn
Okay.
the game. And when he told me that, he said, all I want you to do is work hard in practice, practice hard, do what we have to do to get you ready. And I say, well, and then I was on the scout team. People didn't realize that. I got drafted, but they wasn't dressing me until they made this other change in the rules of the scout team, not scout team, tag, whatever team they had on that. But when when Coach Shula told me that, I really football was for me. My first year was going to practice and just beating up on the defense. I used to run all the scout teams, and I never forget Arnsberger. Boy, I was killing William Judson, Don McNeil, the Blackwood brothers. Nobody could cover me. And I'm running and I'm beating the defense left and right. And I never Arnsberg say, yeah, that's what we talking about. You keep showing us something good gonna happen to you. You keep showing us a good picture like that for the defense. And me and Don Strock was killing them
Nice.
every game. I mean, every practice when we played on defense, I think. So that led for me to do good because I was learning how to play football, learning how to run routes, learning how to read defense. And the whole year, that's what I did. And when I got my chance with Dan, the next year, Dad drafted Dan. Strock was third team. I mean, Dan was third team. When I was third team, when Dan moved up, they moved me up to second team, but I caught a lot of football from Don Strock in practice and everything. Because if you ever notice that when Don Strock took Dan's place when Dan got hurt, my numbers never stopped
Yeah.
because I was in tune with him. And that situation was really good for me. And it gave me a whole year. Thank God that he gave me a whole year to learn the game. And when I came back like game busters. I was ready. I
Yeah.
knew
But
the whole offense. I knew everything.
before we get to '83, I want to ask you a question. I read in that year of '82, you got injured one time because you had one of the guys you probably toasted in practice was William Judson, and you had a foot race against him.
Yeah.
Did you beat him?
Yeah. You know, yeah, I beat William. William Judson,
I
we
love
bet it. Matter
Judson.
of fact, he never gave me my $200 neither. He still owed me $200. and so when I beat him, I pulled my hamstring.
Yep.
Oh my God. So that next day, when I came out, Coach Shula got a whiff. I said, hey, what's wrong with you? I said, Coach, I pulled my hamstring. How'd you pull your hamstring? I was racing against William Justin. What are you doing? What do you mean this? But you know what? He was so happy that I did it. He smiled and laughed. He chewed me out and then he laughed because now he knows that he could have put me on injury reserve or anything and keep me there and let me learn the game,
Right.
and which it was turned out great. But I didn't. I only missed about maybe 2 weeks, a week or something like that, and then I stopped running the scout team. Everything worked out fine. It couldn't have been no better.
Well, I mean, I'm glad you won that race because I would have been disappointed. I love William Judson, but I would have been disappointed if you lost to him. But you go to 83, you don't start the season as a starter. It's 11 out of 16 games. You have a great year, 51 catches, 1,000 yards, almost 20 yards of reception. How did you get the notification, the FYI from Shula that said, okay, now you're starting? Like, how did you make that transition?
Well, Shula was making the transition with quarterbacks, and he was bringing Dan Marino up.
Right.
Okay, so Duria Harris and David Woodley and Nat Moore was starting,
Right.
and Dan and I and Clayton was on second team. So when he moved Dan up, he took Duria Harris out and he left me and Nat Moore in there. He moved me up, and I had a great game. And then when Dan started for Buffalo, he started me and Dan together. And that's how 10 years came out, 11 years came out. Just like that. He made a decision, and then he traded Duria the next year. And then by the end of the next year, that's when Clayton came in, and Clayton started. And then it was me, Dan, and Clayton, and that was third receiver, which third receiver / coach, everything else.
Well,
he was for the team.
That first start of your 7 catches, 202 yards, almost 29 yards a catch against Buffalo, 2 TDs. Let's go to 84. Everything explodes that year for you guys. You had a 71 catch, 1,300 yards, 19 yards a catch, and 8 TDs. When did you know that season was special? Was it right out of the gate, or was it a few games in?
Well, when that season, we was undefeated for about 10 games, I think.
Yeah, 11 and 0.
8 games.
11.
Yeah, 11. Yeah, it was 11 and 0. And that was one of the greatest because it was young players with older offensive line, older receivers to show us the younger players, and we just went at it all out. I mean, it was like we made mistakes, but when we made mistakes, we was catching footballs, making mistakes. And it was just a fun time. And once we learned the offense, it was easy. And the thing is that we knew that we was depending on Dan's arm and depending on us catching the football. And that was a receiver's dream. I had a guy that had a rocket arm back there, can get the ball to you, can read defense, got a quick release, and he had one of the best offensive line in the NFL.
So I don't want to downplay it because it's football, but you guys made it look pretty easy that year, right? And I asked Larry Little when I interviewed him about the huddle, right? In 72, I said my interpretation, my impression of that team was Greasy comes in, calls the play, very businesslike. You guys go out and execute, and he confirmed that. I want to ask you about the huddle because I figured you guys, different generation in a sense, right? 10 years later. I just picture you guys, because it was so easy, quote, easy for you guys, that you went out, you were wide open. Clayton went out, he was wide open. Maybe Dan didn't get him the ball. You guys get back in the huddle like, your kids out on the street playing, throw me the ball, I'm open. Was that what the huddle was like? And do you have a good huddle story?
We had great times in the huddle. You see, you got to remember, Dan was a rookie. Clayton was a rookie. I was a second-year player. And we had all veterans around us. And it was a situation that Clayton was always open. I was always open, and a lot of people was always open. It just didn't have enough football. But it was a fun huddle. Long as we won and we was winning games, I don't think anybody complained about the balls. Later on during my career, we started complaining because we got different coaches like Gary Stephenson came in and really, to tell you the truth, we didn't get enough balls thrown to us when Gary Stephenson came in. It was all a situation that changed the whole complex.
Yeah.
But we worked with it. We did what we could, you know. Um, but for us, the Huddle stories is like Kuchenberg and Dwight was really the leader of the Huddle.
Okay.
And when Clayton would start talking crazy in the Huddle, Dwight said, "Hey, cut it out, get serious." If I was acting fool in the Huddle, come on, dude. It was like we had big brothers in the Huddle, and it was fun because Clayton and I we just talked in the Huddle a lot of times. Uh, and we see a lot of funny things on the field, and we would come back in the Huddle. I would tell Clayton to fight. He said, "Man, I don't want to hear that. Quit lying." And then he go out in the field and he see what I'm talking about. We had fun,
Yeah.
but we were serious, but we had a lot of fun. But we had a lot of. I gotta admit, if we didn't have a veteran squad in front of us, I think it'd have been a little different because we did have leadership on our team.
Yeah. You don't want to mess with Dwight, right?
No, Dwight. Now, Dwight is the nicest guy in the world. You'd be surprised. I used to watch him all the time against Klecko. Man, when we used to play against Klecko
Yeah.
against the Jets, I mean, it was like Dwight and Klecko. It was like when you're supposed to be blocking, I'm trying to look in the huddle just to see how Klecko and Dwight colliding at each other. I mean, they would go at each other so bad.
Right.
Dwight wins some, Klecko wins some. I think Dwight got the best of Klecko in the days, though.
You know, on my TV as a Dolphins fan, Dwight always won, but that's just me. So
Yeah,
I want to
yeah.
ask you about
Klecko was good. Huh?
Yeah, Klecko. I mean, two Hall of Famers, two great players.
Yeah.
So it
Oh yeah.
was an interesting battle. I want to ask you about two specific games, if I can, in 1985. First, let's go against the Jets. It's November. You missed about 7 or 8 games. You come back. You have a monster game, 8 catches, 217 yards. You're down 17-14, 49 seconds left. You're at midfield. It looks like Dan calls an audible because it looked like the Jets blitzed, and he launches one to you. You bobble it, you grab it with one hand, you go in for the go-ahead score, and you win the game. Do you remember that play? And was that an audible? And what do you remember from that game, that play?
Most definitely. Most definitely. I remember that. I think Dan did change the play.
Okay,
But when Dan looked at me
that's
and when
right.
he seen what's his name coming up on me, and he did something like this, and I don't know if he changed it or not, but I know what I was going to do. This guy is hurt. He's in front of me. Dan knows he's hurt. Bobby Jackson,
Bobby Jackson,
and
that's right.
said we're gonna run right by him. Dan called the play. He dropped back. I ran the route. I got open, looked up, ball thrown, batted up, touchdown. Perfect play for the right time. And that's a good chance of me coming back and helping the team and made the playoffs. Because if we'd have lost that game, we wouldn't be able to make the playoffs. So that was a good game, good memory.
Yeah, the play before that, if you remember, you were on like the 40, and Dan threw it to Clayton, and he started to come into the field and realized he's got to get out of bounds, and he fought off 2 blockers to get out of bounds. So it's amazing that you three contributed at the end to that game on script. Second game that later in that year, about a month later, the Bears come into town. And I'm sure you're asked about this game a lot. You're there to protect the 17-0 squad. They're there that night. Bears are tearing up the league. What do you remember from that game? Was there a lot of pressure? I mean, you guys really dominated them for the whole game. What do you remember from that
Yeah,
game?
we dominated. We dominated the Bears because we knew that I didn't expect to get a lot of balls thrown, but actually I did got a few balls. But we knew that Nat Moore was going to have a blistering game. There's no way that we knew that defense that they had to come out when Nat Moore come out and Wilbur Marshall had to cover him. You had a scat. back running wide receiver and a linebacker trying to cover Nat Moore. Nat Moore killed him, 3 touchdowns.
Yeah.
And it was a beautiful game, man. We all contribute to that game. And you know, if I made a statement we was gonna beat the Bears, but you know, just a little general statement. Yeah, I said, oh, we're not worried. We're gonna beat the Bears, but and they had that all plastered on the locker room. The thing Duper said we're gonna beat the Bears, but you know, but we did. But that game was really, really. That's when Walter Payton. I never forget that game. Walter Payton broke the record, uh, uh, um, and that was. And then Jim McMahon and they had the defense that the only people could really beat them was. It was a lot of people, but we the only one that beat them. I think, or somebody else. But the reason why we beat them is because of the linebacker covering a running back wide receiver.
Yeah.
And there's no way that he was going to, Wilbur Marsh can cover that in the slot.
Do you think you could have beat him again in a rematch if you made it to the Super Bowl?
If we'd have made the Super Bowl, that would have been an interesting game. Yes. They'd have had to, because you know what? Buddy Ryan wasn't going to change. You know that.
Good
He's going
point.
to keep that defense.
Good point.
And we was going to keep the same the same offense. And guess what? If they didn't change that defense, we was gonna do the same thing to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've heard over the years a story of yours where you had a little, I mean, you took on William Judson in a race. You know, I'm sure you did other things along your career, but within this one story against Marino claims he could outthrow you. You said there's no way you can outthrow me. My listeners don't know this story. Can you talk about a little bit about that?
Okay. I give you this one story. So, you know, that's when we were rolling. I was third year in the league. My third year, Marino second year, somewhere around there. Anyway, Marino was saying that he threw me perfect passes. And I said, that's bull crap. You don't throw me perfect passes. I go get them and you throw them. He said, I cannot throw you anytime. I said, well, in reality, no, you can't. If you drop back and you think you cannot outthrow me. He said, well, we're going to try it. So we said, we had it on. So we was arguing, not arguing, but talking in the locker room. And so when we came out there, everybody knew what Marino and I was doing. So Marino, we say, okay, Marino, this is what we're gonna do. I'm gonna run a takeoff, and you're gonna drop back normal, and we're gonna throw the football, and we're gonna see if you can outthrow me, if I can outrun you from throwing the ball. So all of a sudden, I line up, Marino lined up. So I know Marino when he drop back, he take a hop, he pat, and then he throws it. So when I'm at 10, 15 yards, I know Marino doing that pattern, and which means that way, if they're looking in the backfield and I'm breaking down, they try to hit the out route. But at 10, 12 yards, when I got to 10, 12 yards, Marino dropped back 5 steps, and he didn't slide and he didn't pat. He just dropped back 5 steps and just slammed it. But I knew he was going to do that. I didn't hesitate 10, 15 yards. I just kept running. And all of a sudden I looked up and the ball was way out there. And I said, oh my God. So I just bowed down, put my head down and ran hard as I could and caught the ball over my head and my tip. And when I came back to the huddle and I said, Marina, you see, you think I don't know you. See, you cheated. You tried to throw the ball early. And he told me, he said, well, Duke, I didn't see you do no hesitation neither. I said, no, that's why I knew you weren't going to do it. If I'd have hesitated, he'd have thrown me. So, and that's where we knew each other at that time because we practiced so much together. And when you practice like that, when you have so much fun in practice, that's just my opinion and what I experienced in NFL. I had more fun in practice than in the game because we practice hard against each other. and we found out who each other was and what we could do and what we can't do.
So
Let
I
me
want to,
rephrase that. I had a lot of fun in the games too.
yeah. You always had a smile on your face, dude. I saw that, and I was like, this is a guy that really does enjoy the game. But I want to ask you, you and Clayton were part of a one, maybe one of the best, if not the best, wide receiver tandems in the history of the NFL. And you're compared a lot nowadays, I guess rightfully so, to the current Dolphins wide receivers in Waddle and Hill. I get the comment, I get the comparison, but I want to compare you guys, you two, to another wide receiver tandem, and then I want to ask you a specific question about it. But let me give you the stats. I'm not sure if you're aware of this. I won't tell you the players offhand. You're only separated by about a decade. So in your career, 511 receptions, 8,869 yards, 17.4 a catch, 59 TDs. Player A that I'm comparing you to, 501 catches, 8,685 yards, 17.3 yards a catch, 67 TDs. They played 37 more games than you. Let's go to Clayton. Clayton, 582 catches, 8,974 yards, 15.4, 84 TDs. Player B, 589 catches, same exact yardage, 8,974, 15.2, 76. That player played 32 more games than Mark Clayton. These two guys are in the Hall of Fame. It's Biletnikoff comparing to Clayton, and it's Branch comparing to you. You guys are not in the Hall. You guys are not really mentioned from what I could see year to year. Maybe Mark Clayton is a little more than you. When you look at your career and you think about the Hall, do you think you and or Mark Clayton should be in it? What are your thoughts about that? Because when I look at those stats, and it's not like it's completely different eras. It's sort of like they, I'll use a track reference here. They passed the baton to you. I mean, they were primarily the 70s. You guys were primarily the 80s. I mean, the stats line up exactly.
Right. We play less game and got more stats than them.
Right.
But the thing is that when Dan came on the NFL, and when we came on the NFL, they did not have a tangible was like us. Was Terry Bradshaw and Lynn Swan and
Stallworth, yeah.
That Starwood.
Stallworth, right.
It puzzles me all the time. I struggle with this all the time, but I try not to think about it. But I can't understand why we have a quarterback, one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, and threw a decade of balls to the two receivers that got a good bit of his yardage and touchdowns. That's not in the Hall of Fame. You have to figure that out. I don't know why. Playing football, we did what no other team was doing at that time.
Right.
Now everybody is throwing the football now. You can't compare us to Waddle and Hill because they get like 10, 12 balls a game thrown to them. We only get we if you go back to my stats, the most ball that ever got thrown to me was 8 balls, probably. I caught 8 balls. But the average pass to the Marx brothers was like about 3, 4 targets a game. Now they get like how many targets? 11, 12 targets.
Yeah.
Imagine if we'd have got that. We never got that. And me personally, yes, I do struggle with it all the time. I don't see why Clayton and I are not in the Hall of Fame.
I don't understand why.
I just don't understand it.
It's one thing not to be in it. There's probably politics. There's other things involved with it, but not even to hear you guys in the conversation. I don't get it. And when I look at these stats, Clayton to Biletnikoff, 8,974 yards exactly between the two. Now, you could look at Pro Bowls. Branch had 4, you had 3. Biletnikoff had 6, Clayton had 5. There's no difference. They won a Super Bowl, yeah. I get it, but I don't get it. To not have you guys to not have you guys in the discussion to me, and I'm not being a homer here as a Dolphins fan, is because I watched you guys transform that game from the 80s and hand it off to the 90s, and now completely different game. You guys should at least be in the discussion, my opinion. Okay. Last round of questions, Mark. This has been great. I appreciate you coming on. I'm glad we were able to sync up today. I'm going to give you a binge burner round. I'll flow through about 5 or 6 questions. First thing that comes to your mind when I ask you the question, here we go. Toughest cornerback you ever faced in your career?
Well, the defense. Well, I can tell you that the toughest defense that we ever faced was Buffalo.
Okay.
Because they played the corners played the outside technique, push everything in, and then they had great linebackers and they had a rush that didn't quit. Now for us individually, the toughest cornerback, a good cornerback, it was a lot of them that was great, but the one that that covered me, I don't see too many of them. I mean, I'm trying to think. Now I had great games, I had bad games, but and nobody never shut me down. Not just like that. Buffalo shut our offense down for 4 years in a row.
All right.
But Kenny Easley was a safety that we had to watch because he was the type of person that he didn't follow the rules.
Okay.
Hitting. He was a hard hitter. I say playing against Raymond Claiborne and Ronnie Lepet.
Okay.
That was some great years that we had to do. It was a lot of teams that I used to love to play against the Raiders. Lester Hayes and Mike
Right.
Hayes.
Okay.
Those guys was really good. Now that's one thing I've watched. That's why I don't know why Lester Hayes is not in the Hall of Fame. That was troublesome because Lester Hayes was one of the best cover cornerback one-on-one that I ever seen in my life.
Interesting.
And,
Maybe it was the
Mike
stick 'em.
Hayes was great too. But that's maybe it was the stick 'em that they didn't get him. But
That's right.
I mean, I seen Lester Hayes run backwards full speed, then a receiver run forward, and every move that receiver made, Lester made backwards and covered him like a
Wow.
blanket. And that was Durian Harris. I never forget that game. I watched them. And Durian makes steps, and Lester Hayes makes step backwards just as good as Durian Harris was making steps in front. That was a hell of a cornerback.
What was the player that you went up against that talked the most trash that you faced?
Ronnie Lepet.
Really?
I talk to him all the
Okay.
time. Yeah,
Huh.
Ronnie Lepet would talk a lot of trash about the Mars brothers. What's his name? Burrows from Buffalo. Me and him got into a little fist fight one time. We was going back to the huddle, and all of a sudden he forearm in the back of my head, and I reached back and I started wailing on him. I got kicked out of the game. Cost me $20,000 too,
Did it
because all I
really?
needed was 4 yards to make $20,000 more. Yeah,
Wow.
Burroughs owed me $20,000. When you see him, tell me you need to give me my money.
There's a lot of
But
people that owe you money, man.
yeah, oh yeah, it's a lot of them. Yeah, they don't pay. They make those bets and they don't pay. Some
That's
of them,
right. That's
But
right.
yeah, but it was a lot of good cornerbacks.
You
It was
roasted the Jets all the time, right?
Houston. Yeah, the Jets. Yeah, I know Holmes. Yeah, I tell you, I used to love to play against Holmes. Tall, lanky. He was good. We used
Gary
to have
Holmes.
battles like that.
Yeah.
Right there.
Okay,
Yeah.
so NFL National Football League or AFL Arena Football League? I don't know if people remember you played for the Miami team in
Well,
'94.
I listen. I was bored, and I tried that, and I still wasn't ready to quit football, and that didn't last too long. Listen. If I had to do it again, NFL, not arena. Arena that is too. And you got to you have to be a Barry Sanders, a running back to play that game because that game is quick and fast,
Yeah.
and everything else, and the field is small. But it was fun. I had fun.
And you
Enjoyed
had
it.
Crash as your quarterback, which was interesting.
Yeah. We had Crash quarterback.
Who was the loudest teammate in your career?
The loudest teammate. Well, I'm trying to think. Ain't really nobody. Everybody just pretty much got along. Pretty much. Person that get under Shula's hair all the time. It was David Fry.
Really?
David Fry. Oh my God! I think Shula cut David one time because of a couple of situations where he was very outspoken. He got on the mic one time, on the plane when we lost, and he was nagging. He was saying, and I don't think Shula liked that. So when you say lie, I say David Fry was a funny guy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Last one for you. Now, you may have answered this already, but favorite sports team growing up?
Favorite sports team growing up. I used to watch Buffalo with O.J. Simpson.
Right.
The team, basketball. I used to watch Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
You're not a
And
Lakers fan, though, are you? Because I'm a Celtics fan. This could get ugly pretty quick.
well, no, I'm a Heat fan. I always been a Heat fan ever since I got drafted by the Dolphins, and then I was a Laker fan until the Heat came in.
Okay.
And when the Heat came in, that was it. But Kareem, yes, Kareem, I always liked the big man with the big, the big hook.
The sky
I
hook.
just something about him.
Yeah. He was unstoppable, but until he faced my Celtics dupe. So
Celtics, yeah, I tell you what, the Celtics are gonna have to do some rebuilding now, boy. Look out,
yeah,
they got some. There's gonna be some good teams this year, man.
they really will.
It's gonna be really interesting. Yeah.
Well, Mark, thank you so much for joining today. I really appreciate it. Big fan.
Okay.
Enjoyed your career. Nothing like it with you, Dan, Mark Clayton, Nat Moore. I mean, I could go on endless. Just great memories in the '80s, and that catch against the Jets. I got to tell you, it's in the intro. That one-handed catch we talked about. I was in my living room that night alone, and when that thing happened, I was just screaming. So,
but that's a beautiful thing. That is a beautiful
absolutely.
thing. It's good to know that after 40 some years, people still remember that.
Well, I got to tell you, I've interviewed a bunch of teammates of yours. I interviewed AJ Due. I've interviewed Mark Dennard. I've interviewed Lyle Blackwood and you. That's the period that I gravitate to, is that period of Shula leading those teams and you guys. I have a hard time connecting with this current roster. Let's just say it, leave it at that. So anyway.
Well, you know what? It's going to, this year, I think you're going to see something different. I think you're going to see a different coach. I think he's not going to, I think he was too pacified. I think this year is going to be hard because, you can't be a good coach and have players control the team. I think he's going to have more control of everything this year. And I think it's going to be a good year for the Dolphins. We're going to see if Tua stay healthy. And the receivers stay healthy, and they get that running game back again, they're gonna be okay.
I tell you what, let's do this. Let's end the discussion on this. I'll make you a bet. All right.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna say they don't make the playoffs. Do you? So you think they're gonna make it?
Bet.
Okay.
Make the playoffs. Yes, I think they're gonna make the playoffs. Now, the reason why I think they're gonna make the playoffs, I see some of the moves that they're making, and I think that defense is going to be a little different. It's going to be better.
I'm hoping they make the playoffs, Mark. I just seen the last 2-3 years, and and you lived it. I didn't live it, but I've watched it and I've heard stories that the last 2 to 3 years, what has gone on there would never have been tolerated during your playing days because of what you said from the beginning, the leadership, right? I don't picture Shula tolerating what this team does. I just don't. And that, to me, it starts at the top. Then you got to have some, and they have a tremendous amount of talent on that team. That's why I don't understand why it just doesn't all come together.
Well, it's like you say, it's leadership. Uh, I think I think the coach that we have is a great coach, a great guy. I mean, great at everything, but he's gonna have to put his foot down. Those players can't do what they want to do. You
Well,
know, you gotta
you're a player.
go ahead.
So if you were 2, 3 years in with him, and then all of a sudden he comes in year 4 and says, "Okay, I'm going to do something different. I'm going to put my foot down." How would you view that as a player? Would you like just shake it off, or would you be like, "Okay, I'm going to give this guy the respect because he's
No,
the coach"?
that's one thing about me. As a player, I respected all coaches, even though I didn't like some of them, but I did respect the game because they are trying to win and we are trying to win. And um, I think that he's not far off of controlling the whole team. This year is going to be his year. I really do believe it. I don't know why. It's just something that I think that he's going to have a good year. Yeah, see, now if the quarterback doesn't stay healthy, then we're in trouble. Okay. Well, so remember, tell everybody about this.
Supertime honey. There you go. I love the
Supertime
logo.
Hunter. That's from Mark Duper. And I am physically doing this myself. So it's got a little super touch to it. Okay?
There you go. Well, thanks, Mark. I appreciate you joining me today. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Have a blessed day.